I had a good laugh when Teresa wrote the notes for this episode, and she's like, tools. And the big one was humans.
Well, it's true.
Which is a double meaning. I like that you're calling people tools. Hi, everybody. It's James
and Teresa.
And here we are talking about the digital battlefield, so how to master online competitive analysis. So effectively, how to measure yourself or your own company versus your direct competition, and what things are important and why. Actually, starting with why, that would be a good question to put over to Teresa, who's an account manager and manages lots and lots of projects across BC and across Canada.
Yeah, you really do want to have an understanding of the importance of why you're doing the competitive analysis and the digital kind of landscape that's there that it's on. And basically, by understanding your competitors' strengths and weaknesses, you know where you can basically be better, where you can hit them. Where you see them that they're doing something poor, you want to make sure that you're doing it better. If they're doing something great, you want to make sure you're doing it even greater.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, knowing who's the best at something puts a target on their back, or allows you to at least paint a target on their back, right, and go after them. Knowing where you're already the best is something that you can either double down on because you're so far ahead of people, or you're like, that doesn't need our attention right now because we already are killing it in that area. We should focus on these other things, kind of the SWOT analysis, methodology.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times, actually, you get so kind of consumed working in your own walls and in your own doors, you kind of forget to pull your head up and look at the actual industry. What are they doing? What's going on? So this is a really good chance to not only learn about your competitors, but even the industry as a whole and what's happening in it.
So the information that we're gathering in our competitive analysis is just something that you can literally open up your laptop and start hunting and searching for this information. It's not, behind closed doors, secret files or anything.
There are quick tools that you can use to check things like page speed and kind of that overall technical performance. Mm-hmm. But really, it starts with a person and them actually being able to digest what they're seeing and make some analysis based on it. So
yeah. No, I had a good laugh when Teresa wrote the notes for this episode, and she's like, tools. And the big one was humans.
Well, it's true.
Which is a double meaning. I like that you're calling people tools. But it's funny because this goes hand in hand with the other episode, which was heavily technology driven. The episode was called Baseline Reporting and the importance of that. And it is using a lot of software to do a lot of number crunching and analysis. But this is the completely opposite side of things, where that was all about tech, all about data and numbers. This is all about human experience, user experience. And because there's no good substitute for human beings yet. AI, in brackets. So let's just run over some of the really important things that you're actually looking for during a competitive analysis. And it's going to be a little bit different for each industry, but the criteria is pretty similar. So even though the findings are going to be different and what you're focusing on, if it's an e-commerce website, it's all about the products and stuff and shopping cart and et cetera, et cetera. But if it's a service company, you're looking at different pages, about the team and interactivity with downloads and quote forms or something like that. But, let's kind of open it up and say what would be the common things for all companies that they really should be aware of how they stack up against their competitors. Yeah.
So I think one of the ways is to start with just branding and, kind of that overarching presence or message. So is there a consistent marketing message or tagline that is used across digital spaces? Mm-hmm. Or does it change all the time? Or is it in some places and not in others and it's inconsistent? Or is it really kind of everywhere you go in the digital world, is it consistent there? So is yours compared to your competitors? And the more often a marketing message is told, the thicker it becomes, the longer it resonates.
Yeah, it's funny, there's an old saying in the marketing world that, 5 seconds is what you have. When people land on your website, they'll start judging you within 5 seconds and almost subconsciously make a decision whether they're going to stick around a lot longer or just like, this is not what I wanted at all. So, and consistency is part of that puzzle. So when they go to your social media profiles and your website or your YouTube channel or, like online business directory, your Google business listing, your profile, and they're seeing radically different things and different messages and different logos and different, addresses and service listings, like they're just confused. And you're not reinforcing anything. You're actually telling people that you're massively disorganized, or out of date, or don't care, or not sure how to use stuff. It's like it's just a bad idea, isn't it?
It is.
So,
and they know it right away. They feel it. They're confused. You've missed an expectation. They're going to walk away.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are some of the other criteria that we're looking for when it comes to you versus them?
Yeah, so looking at your website and understanding, do you have clear paths or calls to action for people to take compared to your competitors? And so that could be for them to, call you or learn more or request a quote if you're providing a service. But is it really clear what you want people to do? Or is there too many options as well? Having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 calls to action on one page, people don't know what to do. They're just going to throw up their hands and go somewhere else. So really clear journeys and calls to action for users to take, so they know what they're supposed to do on your website.
A case of not keeping the main thing.
Yeah.
And not even giving any hints of what you think people should do next. They just left to wander around and get lost in your website, and then ultimately leave without putting any information in.
Yeah.
They're not calling you. They're not asking for a quote. They're not buying anything. They're not downloading anything. It's a lost opportunity.
And then when you recognize too that there's that different people are coming to your site, are you sharing information with them in different ways? So text versus video versus pictures or images. Charts versus graphics, infographics, things like that. You want to have a nice varied kind of playbook that these people can kind of go through.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that if you're in a industry that's heavily visual, for example, real estate, you better have great pictures on your website.
Yeah.
And if you're a lot more technical, maybe there needs to be more of the how-to guides and those kind of explanation documents that people can absorb, or a video explaining something.
We see a lot of people not paying attention or caring about reviews in general. And we're not talking about Google reviews this time, although they're important. But what's on your website? Because this is an online competitive analysis where this time we're measuring kind of what's on your site, what's on your own website, because that's where people are landing on. So, but they have many people will have absolutely no mention of any customer that's or client that they've ever worked with, ever, and they've been in business for 20 years, and they have an amazing reputation. But there's not a peep from anyone who's not at the company.
Yeah.
They might have a message from the president.
Yeah.
The old days where that was really important.
Yeah.
Not so much these days. It's more about message from your top 100 customers. Like that, people are going to care about that a heck of a lot more, right? So, and that's a huge opportunity that we see all the time with competitive analysis. Like, did you know your top 3 competitors have a ton of happy success stories on their website, happy people saying how much they like working with the company, and you guys, even though you're successful too, it's like crickets, right?
It's part of building that trust factor, right? So those testimonials or those reviews from clients are really important.
Yeah, on that trust level, we're trying to convince people to trust your company. Obviously, when we're doing this analysis, that we're looking for opportunities to increase that. We're also looking to increase Google's trust in your company. So there's a whole other side of it, which goes to page ranking, domain score and authority, keyword rankings, and how you measure up against your competitors on that side of things as well. So who's ranking the best on Google? Who has really good authority on Google? Blogging is something we measure for. Do people have a blog on their website? And then the reason I mentioned that right after the Google ranking is because it plays such a big part of it. That's going to be a big indication to Google that you know what you're talking about. And then Google's like, these guys should be ranked higher than company X because they talk about the subject and they talk about it in 8 different ways from 10 different angles, and it's really, really powerful. So the content is king phrase doesn't apply quite like it used to because it's just changed a little bit, but it's still so powerful. Right? So online content, proving your authority is a big deal, and that's something you want to be measuring against your competitors as well.
The one thing I'll say about that too is in a lot of the competitive analysis that I've done for my clients is, you go to their competitors and you look and they're like, oh yeah, they have a blog and there's 14 articles and the last one was written in 2016, and the one before that was 2011. And you can tell in 2008 they hired somebody to write blog articles for them because there's 6 in a week.
Yeah.
So having not only just having those, but actually that they're proving a value. So to put that into a real example is that you and your competitor, you each have a blog. You see that they're blogging about once every 2 months. Okay, to gain competitive advantage, blog every 3 weeks. So you can really easily distinguish how you can actually be better than your competitor. And that's what the whole point of this is putting those little parts of a website or your digital space under the microscope compared to your competitors and find out what can I do to be better than them.
Yep. Another massive area of measuring your company against other companies is in not just your website. We've been talking about that for a long time, but then external sites. So other places like all your social media profiles, if that is important in your industry, because it isn't always, but if it's it usually is. There's exceptions. But again, if your competitors are heavily using social media, they're all over Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Pinterest or LinkedIn, TikTok for the younger demographic, why aren't you there? Or why aren't you there even more? And what can you learn from what they're doing if you're not doing it yourself? The neat thing about doing multiple competitors, not just one company, is you're going to find that some companies are really, really good at some things, but not everything. Yeah. Usually. And then, so you can go like, well, okay, here's the example of the best in this area. But this other company, wow, they are rocking it in this other area. You can just pull ideas together, and then your new kind of game plan could be being the best in all areas. At least you have targets to shoot for, because you're making a hybrid of the very best of the best in every single area, pulling examples from all these different places. You can also actively choose to ignore certain things. It's like, we do not care about being better in this area because of your reasons, but you're going to focus your energy and time on something else because that's more important to you. But you're educated enough to know that it's a great decision to not focus on that and focus on this instead. So information is your friend in that perspective, right? So without doing the analysis, you don't know. You're just like making an opinion based on, I don't know, your feelings probably, or what you're personally interested in. The number of CEOs that don't do stuff because they personally don't care about it, like, what about your customers? What do they care about? Maybe you should do something that is important to them.
Well, and true. I mean, James, if you think how many times we start to have a new client partnership and such, and they kind of come in with their, okay, so I want this, and this, and we say,
oh yeah, they've already decided.
And we say, why? And they said, well, shouldn't I? And we say, we don't know.
Because I want it. And they're like, so?
So let's
based on what? Yeah. What are your reasons? So yeah, I mean, people should ask why a heck of a lot more. Yeah. Before we started the show, Teresa had a really cool example.
Oh yeah, I love this one.
Of a competitive analysis that really turned into a cool strategy.
Yeah. So I learned this a long time ago when I first started going and studying and getting my marketing degree. But Avis, the car rental company, had decided, it really needed to figure out how to own the market. And so they did a very in-depth competitive analysis against Budget, who was number one. Mm-hmm. And basically, I mean, they were kind of this close to being better in everything, but they also realized that they weren't. And they also realized that they were never going to be. And they instead of going, okay, and kind of giving up, they saw it as an opportunity, and they said, okay, we're second. So what do we do about that? And they say, well, if we're not first and we're second, we're going to try harder. And that's how they got their tagline, "We try harder." And it really actually resonated with their customers and their clients, because they knew that Avis would maybe go a little bit above and beyond to try to beat budget. So
they just accepted they're the underdog, and then turned it around as their positioning statement and strength, and say, we're going to do this better. We're going to try harder. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, again, information is your friend. So so we encourage everybody to do online competitive analysis as well as offline competitive analysis. Just keep on keeping on.